Welcome to Neighboring. This is an interview series where we sit down with friends and people in our community and essentially ask this question: what does it mean to be a good neighbor? Today, I am sitting with my two new best friends, Donnivan and Jordajé, and I can't wait to hear what these two young people have to say about what it means to be a neighbor, what inspires them, how they're seeing people be neighbors around them. And I can't wait to introduce them and really hear from them. So Donnivan, let's start with you. Tell us about yourself, what you're into, how old you are.
Well, I'm 9 years old. I really like reading and art. And I'm going into the 5th grade next year at Irwin Elementary.
All right, and I hear you want to be an entrepreneur. What kind of businesses have you started?
Well, I started a slime business with my friend Selena.
You were selling slime. How are you selling your slime? To your friends, to your neighbors?
Well, we both make the slime and then she packages it. I give the extras and write the care note, and then we give it to the person who bought it.
All right, a care note? What's a care note?
Well, a care note is something that tells you how to take care of it.
Okay, great. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Jordajé, tell us how old you are and what kind of things you're into.
Well, I'm 7 years old, and the one thing I am obsessed with is pets, and I love doing poetry. Like, I love doing it. It's like my thing.
Yeah.
And about me, I love writing things, and I also love reading because every day I read like 2 books and 3. I don't know. I just can't count.
I hear you're an actor as well. Is that true?
Yeah, I love acting.
What is it about acting that you like?
Well, I like how people express, and I like how it's so cool, and you could be like different characters, like whichever character, and it's just so cool.
Well, I'm so excited you're here and are willing to come and talk to me. Question for you first, Jordajé. Tell me what you think a neighbor is. What is a neighbor?
Well, a neighbor is like a person who lives next door or across from your house, and a person who's very friendly and nice and sweet, and they're just so nice, you just can't handle it, and they're very neighborly.
Do you have a neighbor that you know well that's so nice? Like,
Yes.
you don't have to tell us your names, but can you describe like a neighbor that comes to mind?
Yeah, they're so nice. Like, I get to come over their house whenever I want. They're just so sweet. They share a lot, and sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. That's great. What is a neighbor to you, Donnivan? What do you think a neighbor is?
Well, I think, a neighbor is somebody who lives next to you or behind you or across from you, and a neighbor, the person who lives next to you, they help you with a lot of stuff. Like our neighbor, he helps with the backyard, so.
Okay.
So sometimes we help with, so there's an abandoned house next door, and there's a lot of glass, so sometimes when I'm outside, I ask to help pick up the glass. And, the neighbor across from us, they lended us their lawnmower so we could mow our grass because it was getting really tall.
Okay. So you're describing, so neighbors not only live by each other, but they help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how old. I mean, you're going and cleaning up glass and helping on a property and as a neighbor, and they're older and they're letting you borrow your stuff. What do you think that happens in all neighborhoods? What do you think? No? You haven't seen that happen in all your neighborhoods?
No.
Yeah.
And next neighborhood, it's too bad. It's bad. It's really bad.
What do you think makes a good neighbor, Jordajé?
Well, like helping people like if there's different things that you could help with. Like, personally, I love helping people. It's like the best thing ever. So I go to my cousin's house. They have like a lot of flowers that they like to pick, and I say, hey, can I come pick with you? And they'll be like, yes. And then I like to help people a lot. It's just very fun. It's very fun.
What are some other ways that you've helped other folks?
Well, actually, my next door neighbor had they have 2 dogs, and one of them ran into the street and got ran over.
Oh, no.
And so now they have one. And then I tell them, like, if it gets out of the fence, because I don't want it to go out in the street. And if there's children playing outside, I don't want them to like go in the street and get ran over.
So you're watching out for people.
Yeah.
You're watching out for your neighbors. You're watching out for the other kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
People's pets. That's a very important part. Like, things that are happening in our neighborhood, we have to watch out for each other.
Yeah, we do.
And because we can't be everywhere at once, and we can't be in control of all the cars, and so we really have to kind of watch out for each other, don't we?
Yeah.
What do you think, Donnivan, it means to be a good neighbor? Like, what are some ways that you've seen people be good neighbors?
Well, it means to be a good neighbor. Like, my neighbors, like, down the street, we tried to, like, plant a garden, but it wasn't working out very well. So the neighbors, like, down the street, they have a really good garden, and they gave us some of their plants to plant in our garden. And, neighbors across the street, they come play with us because, like, there are a lot of people in the neighborhood, and they like people being included. So they come and invite people to come play with us if they don't have nothing to do.
All right. So you've got neighbors that are sharing and trying to help each other out with the garden and those types of things. And then it sounds like you've got some friends in the neighborhood. Like, being a neighbor could be about being a friend, huh? I'm curious, Donnivan, talk to me about, like, we talked about neighbors in a neighborhood, like where we live and that. Have you ever thought about, like, what happens at school? Like, do you ever think like, your school is a neighborhood? Have you ever thought about that?
I think our school, instead of a neighborhood, is a community because there's a lot of people there, and we all help each other out around the school. Like, the 5th graders help out with the younger kids in, like, 1st grade and kindergarten. They be on bus rider lines. They sit with the kindergartners and 1st grades like their bus buddies. Okay.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So you're learning that at school about how to, like, care and be connected to other people. Mm-hmm. And I think I've also heard that. Do you help, like, 1st and 2nd graders, like, with reading and their stories?
Well, when I was in 3rd grade, I helped the kindergartners with reading, and we do help with younger kids with their reading. Because now that when I was in 4th grade, we came down to help the 1st and kindergartners with their reading. So we came down with our stories that we read, and then we read it to them, and then they made stories, and then they read it to us, and we gave compliments and suggestions on how to change their story to make it even better.
That's very helpful. Nice job. Nice job. Jordajé, you're in youth theater, so you have an extracurricular activity where you go and you act with some friends, right?
Yeah.
What have you ever thought of, like, that as, like, a neighborhood or a community? Like, how do you see people being good neighbors in that community?
Yeah, like, there are a lot of people. To be honest, everybody is friends. Like, even new people, like, when they come in, we go up to them and we'll be like, hey, want to be friends? And they all say yes. And we're just friends. Like, it's no hate, it's no hatred. We're just friends, and we love each other because we're best friends.
So when somebody new comes, you guys just naturally on your own, like, decide to include them and make sure they feel welcome?
Yeah.
That is impressive. That's great. It's hard to show up to new places, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you're alone and you don't know anybody else and you show up, and if somebody doesn't welcome you, you kind of feel awkward, right?
Yeah, like on the first day of school, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous right now. Like, OMG.
But you guys are fixing that. You've realized in your theater community that it's important to be inclusive and invite people in, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So we have this question. If the superhero was to move into your neighborhood and you got to pick which superhero that was, which superhero would you choose to be a neighbor with? Donnivan, tell us about which superhero you would choose and why.
I would choose the superhero Wonder Woman because, well, people lie and Wonder Woman makes people tell the truth because she has a rope and she lasses the people and that rope makes them tell the truth.
So because Wonder Woman has this focus on truth, and you see that as a big opportunity that if we were all more connected and truthful and upfront with each other, that we could create a better community or a better neighborhood, right? Wow, that's pretty impressive. Jordajé, which superhero would you choose and why?
Black Panther.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because he could save the world.
He can save the world?
Yes, he's so cool, and that movie is just amazing. Like, I love it.
So Black Panther can save the world, and we focused in on one particular neighborhood, your neighborhood. What is kind of one thing that you would want to make different in your neighborhood? If Black Panther showed up to your neighborhood, what would you ask him to fix?
Well, see, like at the end of our neighborhood, there's like a few bullies, and since he could change the world, I would ask him, hey, can you change them, like to make them a little bit nicer and play with us and be nicer to us because they're bullies.
Wow. So how can people be better neighbors to bullies? Or what happens when you interact with like a bully or somebody that's just not being very nice? Like what happens to the community when somebody's not being really nice or they're bullying other people? What happens to the community?
They be bullies back. Like, okay, so one time my friend was going up to the bully and they were like, hey, wanna go play with us? We're playing hopscotch. And they were like, no, and then they pushed them and I was like, oh my God. And then they were being bullies back and I was like, guys, stop being bullies, and they stopped.
Yeah. What happens if we're bullies back to the people that are being bullies? Does that help or does that make it worse?
That makes it way worse. They get madder and meaner and just no.
Have you seen anybody do it differently? What and like make it better by making a different choice than just being a bully back?
Yeah, he made it different.
What happened? Like, help us understand.
So there was this girl. She was very nice, and she went up to the bully and she was like, hey, why don't you guys try to be nicer? And they were like, nah. And she was like, please, ooh, we have a pretty good game. It's about being a bully. But then they psyched them, and she was like, come on. And then they were like, okay. And then they were like, and then she was like, psych, come on. You guys gotta be nice to us. And they were like, okay, fine.
Okay. So somebody took a little extra time, tried like a different approach, tried to play their game, but then did something else. But they like, really rather than getting frustrated and like launching back with more bullying or frustration, they tried a different approach. Wow, we got a lot to learn from that. Donnivan, if you could change anything in your neighborhood, what would you change?
Well, like our neighborhood is like a bit of a pigsty because a lot of people they come outside with food and then they just throw the wrappers on the ground and leave it there without. And so, well, I would try to end that and make everybody recycle so our world will last longer because when people throw trash on the ground, it creates litter. And when people pick it up and throw it in the trash or where it could be recycled, the things that could be recycled go into landfills and then make landfills bigger. And so landfills, they chop down trees to make landfill, and trees make the air cleaner, and without trees the air would be super dirty.
That's a pretty big cycle that you just described. The idea that if you could change your neighborhood or encourage people to do one thing, it would be to stop throwing trash on the ground because of the impact of the trash from going from that one little small piece of trash that somebody thought didn't really matter landed on your neighborhood. And if they would have thrown it away or chosen to recycle that bottle instead of throwing it on the ground, that if we all did that, not just in your neighborhood, but if we all did that, maybe our world would be a little bit better of a place. Am I right? Wow. If you're having trouble, Donnivan, if you're having trouble at school on the playground, what do you do?
Well, I either confront the person who's like messing around or being mean to me, or I would walk away and tell a trusted adult. Well, sometimes, when people are being mean to me, I go and tell my friends, and they come and they stick up for me. Like when I was being picked on, when I was being on the bars at school playground, they came and they helped me get over it.
So your friends, you went to your friends when things were kind of tough or someone was picking on you, you went, talked to your friends, and your friends responded and came. It's important to have friends and to be connected. Jordajé, when something goes wrong, like those bullies you talked about, when you go and you tell an adult what's going on, whether it's at school or youth theater or something like that, what do some of the adults do?
Well, they go and they tell their parents so they could they could get them in trouble because you're not supposed to be a bully and that's not the right thing to do. Or they would be like, don't bully on my child because that's not right, and things like that. Because it's not right to bully. Don't ever be a bully. That's not good.
Yeah, we got a lot to learn about being nice to each other, don't we?
Yeah.
It's hard to be nice sometimes.
Yeah, it really is.
But it feels good when we're nice to others and others are nice to us.
Yeah.
Jordajé, how do you, what makes you feel loved and cared for in life? Like when you feel like really encouraged, what happened to make you feel encouraged or loved?
Well, I like that my family loves me, and I love to help people. Like if there was an elderly person that needed help with groceries, I would go and help them. That just makes me feel so good.
It makes you feel good?
Yeah.
Like what? Tell me about that. Have you done something nice that you remember a story where you went and helped someone and it made you feel really good by doing it?
Yeah, because it was this elderly person walking down the street and they had a lot of groceries, and I was like, Dad, can I go outside and help them? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I went out there and I said, hey, may I help with the groceries? And she was like, yeah. So I helped with the groceries. We went inside her house. She was like, oh, you're so sweet. And I was like, thank you. You're sweet too. So I gave her the groceries, and then I went back inside and I was like, yeah, Dad.
It feels so good to help others, doesn't it?
It does so much.
Yeah. Donnivan, what makes you feel loved? Like, what makes you feel really good at the end of the day?
Well, when I'm playing outside, there's like a big group of kids who like to play kickball, and it makes me feel good when they try to include me in it. Well, since they did something nice to me, I try to do something nice for another person. So I'm like, hey, why don't you come and join us and play kickball with us? Or, hey, why don't you come and play soccer or something like that? And that just makes me feel so good at the end of the day.
That's great. So as we look to wrap up this interview, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for joining this show.
No problem.
If you think about your dream neighborhood, Donnivan, when you think about the dream neighborhood or the dream community, like if you could make this community, make your community anything, what would be included in your dream neighborhood?
25 ice cream trucks.
Okay. Do they all serve the same kind of ice cream or different ice creams?
No, they all serve different ice cream.
Okay, so 25 different ice cream trucks. What else?
Well, it would be like a big housing addition with big houses, but anyone could afford it because like they would have low prices on it, and there would be a whole bunch of grassland around it, so we could have room to play. Like kids like to play football around, and there would be like a whole bunch of parks that we could go play on, and basketball courts where they could go play basketball, and sometimes even swimming pools in the backyard.
I like that neighborhood. You should keep trying to be an entrepreneur so you can be what's called a community developer. You can one day take a neighborhood and transform it into that vision. That's a great thing about following through with the vision. Jordajé, what would you put in your dream neighborhood?
Big mansions
Big
and
mansions.
some small houses, like, because some people don't want really big houses, just small little houses, and then big mansions, apartments, and 50 ice cream shops.
50 ice cream shops?
Yes, I love ice cream.
All right.
And there'll be 4 parks, and there's actually I've been to this one park and it's pretty cool because they have a swimming pool, and I want a swimming pool and a park divided.
Do you, in your neighborhood, what type of people would you like to live in your neighborhood?
Well, really nice people. Like, I wouldn't want mean people in the neighborhood that could be just mean to other people. I wouldn't allow that.
So some nice people, some people that help this
Yeah.
idea that we can all be different, whether we want a big house or a small house, or we like 50 different types of ice cream, as long as we can kind of create a place where we all like to live and can help each other. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Jordajé, Donnivan, thank you so much for coming on this show called Neighboring to talk to us about your understanding of what it means to be a good neighbor. You both have shared a lot of stuff for me to even think about and how I can be a better neighbor when people are not being nice to me, and visions of what I want my neighborhood to be like. I think I need an ice cream shop in my neighborhood too. I think it only needs to serve Rocky Road ice cream though. So can I have one ice cream shop that just does one flavor?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the end of this episode of Neighboring. Donnivan and Jordajé shared their views on what it means to be a neighborhood and what it means to be a neighbor in those neighborhoods and in the schools and the activities that they're a part of. Tune in next week when we're back asking another individual what it means to be a good neighbor. These are really designed to keep the conversation going, to ask questions, and most of all, to learn from one another, no matter how old or how young or whatever your circumstances in life are. So thanks for tuning in.